This is the Fearless Artist Podcast, and today I'm having Pieter Schoonderwoerd on for the second time. If you didn't hear the first interview I did with Pieter, then just make sure you go back to episode 4, where he talked all about branding for artists. He has just released a new ebook around archetypes for artists. This is tied into branding, and it's a little bit next level. So if this is brand new content to you, then just be sure to listen to that first episode first. Today we got into archetypes, what they are. There are 12 different ones. You'll hear him explain all about it and how classical musicians can use these to help present themselves on stage, but also online, in person. Every way that you show up as an artist can tie in. And he also dives deep into core values, how these inform us. We also get into a little mini coaching exercise for me, which I found very fulfilling and meaningful. And he's just a great guy all around. So make sure to check him out on all the socials. Actually, Pieter is going to be coming to do a workshop for TFA members, and this is going to be on May 27th at 7:30 European time, Central European time. So if you are listening to this and you are part of the Fast Forward membership or our mastermind, then you get free access to this workshop. If you want to get access to this workshop, all you need to do is send us a message at the Fearless Artist Mastermind on Instagram, and we will tell you all about how to join our membership Fast Forward, which includes monthly trainings like these. I hope you love the episode and you'll learn a lot, so make sure you have a notebook handy because this is great. We really get into the details here. Enjoy, and we'll see you at the end. Hi there, and welcome to the Fearless Artist Podcast, where we empower classical musicians to build their own thriving careers. I'm your host, Michelle Lynne, and together with Deanna Petre, we teach artists to conquer the entrepreneurial side of their careers and create the futures they want.
We are two freelance classical musicians who have lived and worked in Europe for a decade, and together we started the Fearless Artist Mastermind, a coaching company created to teach classical musicians how to overcome fear and take action on building their dream careers.
In each episode, we will explore the intersection of artistry and entrepreneurship, teaching you the fearless mindset with practical steps and strategies to build a sustainable career.
Get ready to build your own artistic brand, find a supportive community of musicians so that you don't have to figure out everything alone, and earn a living that you deserve.
We believe that you can be a thriving artist and not a starving one, and we are redefining what it means to be a classical musician in the modern era. Welcome back to the Fearless Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lynne, and today I am thrilled to have, for the second time, my colleague and friend, Pieter Schoonderwoerd. Welcome, Pieter.
Hi, great to be here, Michelle.
Yes, we had you on in one of our early episodes, and you gave one of the most helpful teachings on the podcast. I recommend that episode constantly around branding, and very specifically how to brand yourself as an artist through 3 things: words, actions, visuals. I'd love for you to just, first of all, give us a quick intro, and then let's just jump in because we're going to be going even deeper on this really important topic today.
Perfect. Well, for your listeners that don't know me, my name is Pieter Schoonderwoerd. I've been teaching music entrepreneurship for 5 years now in Rotterdam at a conservatory there. It's called Codarts. And before that, I actually founded the subject at Conservatorium Maastricht, so in the south of the Netherlands, which is called Your Artist and Business over there. So I've been kind of busy with working with young musicians in an educative role for, let's say now, close to 9 years. Besides that, I've been working in the music business as a venue programmer, as a director of a jazz venue in several capacities, all the way from artist manager and just working in catering when I was, 21 to now, 20 years later, all these different roles. And along the way, besides also being a musician myself and having studied jazz drums, you kind of pick up things along the way, which now I utilize in my music teaching, but also as an artist coach. And specifically, I work with artists on their artist branding.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, the best thing about you is that you've done little bits and pieces of all of it. So then when you come into a situation, you're talking from your experience, you've put yourself in the shoes of who you're talking to. So it's not empty air. It's not you just coming with these good ideas. I think a lot of times in academia, people can come in with these concepts, but it's like, actually, we need you to teach what's going to work out in the real world. And so by having worked with venues and programming, the nitty gritty of what's actually happening, also with dynamics of people and relationships and have band members and everybody getting along. I mean, there's so many things that are going into actually making it possible for these performances to happen. So it's great that you have so much experience across the board. why is branding so important to you, and why is this kind of like the topic of your, I don't know, season of life right now?
Yeah, it's kind of like the difference with it just being a note or having personality, color, expression. So a lot of people, they play amazingly, but they never really thought about what's actually my personality and my core. How can I communicate with people my way? What is actually my way of doing things? Instead of comparing ourselves and kind of finding some kind of mean, some kind of average way of doing things, really kind of admitting, okay, if I'm in control of this live show and I'm like the master of the universe for an hour and a half, 2 hours of people's time, from the moment they arrive at the venue to the moment they leave again, what is the impact I want to have? What is the feeling, the atmosphere, the thoughts, the feelings I want people to experience? And what can I do to really truly make it my kind of performance? And that's something I love working on with people, figuring out like, how do I take it from a bit unpersonal, impersonal, to really my stamp on it.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. It's coming from a classical music perspective, I think most of us are so self-focused on stage because we just want to be perfect, play perfectly. You know, it's starting to shift, I think, the narrative around like, what does the audience actually want and what do we want to give the audience? But this is also divided because some audience members are part of this, you know, elite classical music audience where they come in cultured, they come in knowing the repertoire, they come in having the expectation of the interpretation, and they're there to be the critic or the judge. And then you've got a whole other segment of the audience who's just there, like it might be their first concert. They're just blown away at anything you do. So yeah, from our perspective, it's kind of hard to think about these things, especially when we have so much to do. Like we're busy, like trying to get all the notes.
Totally.
You know? So yeah, tell me more about like why this subject is so interesting to you and why you've chosen this.
Well, I kind of slowly found out by being an artist manager that all your decisions, everything you're thinking about, what should I do on social media? What should I wear on stage? Should I record something? What kind of repertoire? Actually, everything needs a foundation. It has to come from somewhere. Otherwise, it's kind of random. It's maybe following the trends or kind of following what everybody's doing. But if you really want to make conscious decisions of it, then it has to come from the inside.
Yeah.
Right? And that's branding. That you mean, you kind of say, who am I? And from the inside out, you start to make these decisions based kind of on your beliefs, maybe your values, your taste, right? Your lifestyle, the kind of people you would love to have at your concert, right? What changes when you think about those things? And that's where branding comes in.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to diving in. So I know you just wrote an ebook. You had like 3 days unexpectedly off and then just cranked out this 50-page ebook, which is free for download currently, right? We're going to make sure we get that in the show notes.
Perfect. Yeah,
so if you're listening, you're listening to the podcast, make sure you get your hands on that. But I'd love for you to dive in and tell us everything that's in there, starting with what core values or archetypes, whatever you want to start with.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about what is a great starting point. When we talk about branding, where do we want to start? And a great starting point that actually will help you with all these other concepts that we can talk about are archetypes, which is a core personality. So then we kind of start with who are you at your core as a personality type. And from there will come what maybe drives you, motivates you, what is the change you want to see in the world, and all those other questions might actually already start from a certain personality type that you are. And the concept that's often used for corporations, but also for personal branding, and thus also for artist branding, major labels by managers around the world, is called archetype branding, which comes from Carl Jung, who wrote about having core universal personality types. That basically it doesn't really matter if you're here in the Netherlands or in China or anywhere else in the world. People will recognize that's the funny person. You know, she always cracks a joke. Well, that's called the jester. Or she's always a bit rebellious, right? She does her own thing. Doesn't want to adhere to the status quo. She is the rebel. Or somebody who's a bit more about control and leadership and status and has this confidence and power around them, and that's called the ruler. So I think we can all relate to these kind of universal personality types. And the idea is basically that through kind of self-reflection, you can do some tests, you can read up on all of those. There are 12 according to Jung, basically, that we kind of work with. It's kind of to figure out which one really resonates with me. And then you have the choice to either go for one. So let's say I'm an everyman, I'm the Ray Chen of classical music, right? I'm the Ed Sheeran of classical music, basically. That's kind of the example I usually use. Very approachable, accessible, low-key, relaxed. Somebody you feel I can just go into a pub with and hang out. Although she might be a superstar, right? Doesn't matter. A bit like Adele as well in that sense. Somebody you just feel like normal person, we can just hang out. The everyman. So that's one of these archetypes. You kind of have to feel which one of these resonates. Then you can choose one which will help you to bring focus and clarity into it. So if you're an innocent, and for you nature is important, your inner child, you're maybe a bit naive and a dreamer, you can think about, what does this mean for what I wear? You see often innocents wear white, kind of the color of innocence. Their live show might have more nature elements, like you have a plant behind you, right? So maybe you would fill your stage with plants or flowers, have them in your hair maybe, write your lyrics about it or dedicate your songs to it or have nature sounds in your compositions, right? Whatever you want to do, there's a way to kind of work with this archetype that kind of brings clarity and focus. It limits your choices a bit, which is good in the sense of you have to admit color. This is where
my next question. Yeah, please continue on this, because what do you say to the classical musician who is like, oh, I don't want to box myself in, or I don't want to present myself as this funny thing. You know, if let's say a gesture you used as an example, like, oh, I want to make sure that I'm taken seriously because classical music is very serious, you know? So what about this limiting box thing? And also, as you're speaking, I'm realizing that like you might even be able to rebrand your archetype based on different album projects coming out. Like I'm thinking of Taylor Swift going through her folklore phase, and then she'd come from kind of like a more powerful diva from before that. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, it's up to you how often you want to kind of actively work with it. So, you know, it's culturally and context-wise dependent. I'm currently watching the Chopin competition on YouTube, right? It's live broadcasted twice a day. And it's just interesting for me to see, do I see some people thinking about branding? Does their playing, their expression, the dynamics, the interpretation relate to how they're looking, what they're wearing, or what they're doing? Like, do I see something there, or is it more I'm playing this piece, and it's more like a distance between their personality and their performance? And some really bring it together, which is interesting for me to look at.
Yeah, what do you see? Are you seeing anyone kind of step into this branding archetype?
So, okay, let's ask you this question. I have a theory which is for pop music. And my theory is that, especially since social media came up, the everyman is the most dominant archetype. By far. Everybody is told by whichever manager or record label that exists in the world, you should be relatable. You should share your thoughts and your feelings and your mental state, and you should share your personal life also. And that's what everybody's saying. Basically, they're saying to everybody, be an everyman. And if everybody's doing this, of course, with branding, then you have to think that's not so interesting, right? But anyway, so I think that in pop, the preferred archetype by labels is the everyman, and then they maybe bring a little twist to that. But you know how many girls I have in my school that went to a label for a discussion, came back and said, yeah, Peter, they want me to be the girl next door.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Like Taylor Swift in the beginning.
Like Taylor Swift in the beginning, friendly. You're really the girl, your neighbor next door, right? Just somebody you can borrow a cup of sugar from. Not dangerous, not an adventurer, not a rebel. No, the everyman, the friend.
Just be safe.
Be safe.
Box.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So that's interesting. So my question for you would be, if you think of the archetypes, is there maybe one for you that comes to mind as the dominant one in classical music.
That's interesting. I mean, what comes to mind is this elitism in classical music, which might position people as kind of being this like mysterious, distant. I don't know if that falls under like the hero category or not the magician. Magician's maybe not the right one, but you know what I mean? Like kind of this authority, distant, you can't touch me. There's a lot of musicians who want to keep that image of not being touchable. It's not about, and actually removing themselves even from the picture. It's like, it's about the music. It's about the art. It's not about us. We're kind of just these catalysts, I want to say, to let the music flow through. Yeah.
Totally. So if I hear you speak, right, about authority, elitism, control, I think mastery is an important word, right? Of course, as well, excellence, mastery, quality. I think the ruler is often used. People show up in a really nice suit or a really good dress, and they walk with confidence and they sit with confidence and they kind of portray this, I'm the master of my craft and I'm here to give an amazing performance with control, right? With a lot of control. And that's kind of closest to the ruler archetype. So that's what I see. Not everybody's doing that clearly, right? But it's kind of the dominant one, I think, in classical music. And it's probably related to what you just said about some people even thinking you're the vessel, so you should just sit there, not assume too much, and just let the piano speak.
Yeah. Although what you're saying about, excellence, quality, mastery, I think for a classical musician, that's core values that go through maybe all of 12 archetypes. Like whether or not you're the jester or not, you still want to be like, no, like we've trained to such a high level and we've been taught to care so much about detail. So someone like Yannick, for example, the conductor, he's a segue. I think he falls under more of a hero because he's done like, first of all, apparently in rehearsal, he's extremely funny. He's always cracking jokes. He's very relatable with his orchestra. If somebody makes a mistake, like he'll burst out laughing. Like one of my good friends right now is his assistant right now. So she was telling me like the feedback from the orchestra. He's very open with them, but he still has this, I don't know what you were describing in the ruler, like this authority, this mastery, but this relatableness. That's another interesting twist on it.
That's nice. So yeah, I mean, if you are a certain archetype and you have to have a leadership position, then of course the way you do that's your style. And then a ruler will probably have a different approach to that, maybe a bit more authority, a bit more I'm the Beyonce of this and I will tell you what to do, could be, right? And if you are a hero for whom justice is very important and equality and those kind of things, you might find a way to get people a bit more involved and part of the decision making, and you'll probably find more of a participatory leadership style. I'm just now guessing, right? And if you're a jester, you will find a way to insert a bit of jokes in it, kind of let people relax for a moment, give them a breather before the important moment comes, and you will find a way to break the tension with humor, right?
Yeah. One of my good friends is definitely a jester, thinking of that now too. Yeah, for sure. But coming back to that question of like boxing yourself in, like what about people who don't want to be seen as the jester, even though they're fun? Because they're like, oh no, now people aren't going to take me seriously.
Oh yeah, I get what you mean. So first of all, boxing in, let's start there, right? So the idea is to stand out in people's minds. You have to give people a bit of hooks to remember you by.
A framework, right? Something, if you write an email to somebody I've never met you, what are you saying in that email that you stick in my mind in a certain corner, and what's that corner that you want to be in, right? So that I can remember you. So you're doing this to help others find you and remember you, or form a connection to you, right? So that's the main point. So then the second one is, if you're a jester, how often do you do this, right? How often are you cracking a joke or having fun? What's the context where you're moving in? That's completely up to you. And I would also say that's very culturally dependent, right? So on the genre, on the context where you are playing, that's really up to you to decide. But if I read your biography, somewhere it should make me smile.
So the spirit of a gesture should be that I'm reading your biography, and there should be a little spirit of a bit of lightness and not taking yourself too seriously, and somewhere that should express itself creatively, right? I
love this so much, but we got to get this message into the classical world. For a classical musician to think I need to tweak my bio according to my archetype, I think that's completely new ground.
It is.
Yeah, but I love it. Yeah, continue. Sorry.
The reason we're doing this is that people connect to people.
Yeah.
Not only to a professional.
Right.
So we have to bring the personality, the humanness, into how we communicate ourselves. And if we just say, I am the most renowned guitar player of my generation, I've won the Chopin competition in 2024, right? And you list off all your accomplishments and everywhere you've played and the master classes you've had and which institute you have been taught, and the list goes on, then I'm still not anywhere in all those sentences seeing who you are. And I think this is the biggest missed opportunity with classical music in the last 70 years, which for me is probably at the core and why some people struggle with finding an audience, which is you infuse your communication with your personality. Find a way of being professional, right? But also human.
Right.
And then the next one, because you're saying like boxed in, is so this is about kind of finding clarity, but personality is one of the ways to do this. The other one is that you can look at your art, at your music, and have your style and your way of playing and your own expression and your own interpretation. And that's another way of coloring everything that you do and bring to the table and making it your own. Is that boxing in? Maybe it is, but it's having a sound, it's having a style. So
it's great.
You know what I mean? That's the same thing for me.
Yeah, it's really good how you explain that, because I mean, you have to choose, and if you don't choose, you end up being random and blending in, and the branding is about standing out. So by choosing, you are choosing to stand out. And I think a lot of people don't realize you can also adjust as you go. You know, if you don't like how you're coming across, I know you talk a lot about branding is how you're being perceived. Branding is the feeling people have after experiencing you on stage or working with you. Well, if you get the feedback and it doesn't resonate with how you want to be seen, then you'll just adjust the brand messaging. It is totally possible to change as you go. It's funny because yesterday I was looking up like old videos. Today I'm teaching a workshop on how to get confident on camera to our community, our membership. So I went back and I found like videos from 5 years ago to see how I've grown personally on camera and to show them like what not to do. And I found like the first version of our website, the Fearless Artist website, and it's like so off. I don't even remember it being that bad. And then it was like, oh wow, it's like so nice to see how we've adjusted the brand as we've gone, and also the tone, but also the core values and how you can strengthen and focus them and through all the messaging across the board. Do you have any final thoughts around archetypes for people listening? This is like a new thing. I know there are a couple quizzes that you recommend that people can do to find out who they are. And then based on their results, maybe you can give a few tips for people like how to use this practically. Okay.
So maybe to round this one off, I really like this concept which comes from Seth Godin about being remarkable. And he defines being remarkable as worth making a remark about. And that means when we're talking about branding, that we have to think of the word tension. And the tension exists between two polar opposites. On the left, you're right, we have being recognizable. And recognizable means that I see you and I understand you are a violinist, you're a flute player, you make maybe Baroque or Romantic or classical in general, or you're contemporary. I kind of understand where are you living. Mm-hmm. Who are you, right? And that's the recognizable part. So that means we look at classical music as a whole. We see what kind of the customs, traditions, conventions are. How do people dress? Do they talk between pieces? Yes or no? How do they walk up? What do they post on social media? What is, let's say, the middle ground that makes people recognize who you are? That's on this side. And then all the way on the other side is being remarkable, worth making a remark about. And this is literally the difference, let's say, in, I can maybe ask you this question. Have you tipped lately anybody on a Netflix series?
Have I tipped anyone to watch something?
Like, hey, you should watch this movie or you should watch this series. I really loved it. And which one was it?
The Chosen, actually. I got into it a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, actually, I haven't seen that one. Okay, I should then. Well, for me, which one do I recommend to which one not is probably the average one that was kind of just a relaxation, kind of a relaxing experience. I just watched it to not be bothered too much and just have a chilled evening. Let's say that's not the one I recommend. You know, it feels like one in a dozen. I've seen this before. I know how the plot will go. There's nothing too unexpected happening. Like a rom-com.
Yeah.
Right? That's not the one I'm going to phone you about and be like, Michelle, you have to see this. Right. I'm not going to do that. But the one that stands out, like adolescence lately, right? A lot of people have been saying, oh, you should watch that one. It really stands out. It's one take per episode. The kid plays amazingly. The psychologist plays amazingly. The whole family just works beautifully. It's surprising what happens. It's shocking. It feels new and fresh. That's the one you recommend to certain people, not to everybody. I'm not going to recommend it to my father or mother. They don't want to see that, but I will recommend it to certain people. Well, this is what branding is. You want to be recognizable enough that people understand what you're doing, who you are, and then you want to add your personality to it. The archetypes is a great way for doing that. You want to add your art, your artistic vision to it, your approach to playing, right? You want to add that to it. And then the third one that I also talk about is that you want to maybe also infuse your position in society. Who am I as an artist in this society? What am I doing? What is my role? What's my take on that? And how do I contribute? And you could also talk and live that life. And that's the third way of already adding personality and color to what you're doing. And all those things combined gives you a lot to play with. So yes, you're making choices and thus excluding some things. That's what it means to make a choice, right? That's okay. But there's so many different ingredients to play with that it will still feel, when I work with artists, as a very creative undertaking and not limiting in that sense.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, you said you wanted to jump into core values.
Well, I think once you've found your archetype and maybe you found that you're an explorer, an adventurer, right? And okay, if that's true, then maybe from that as a start point, some words will already come to mind that are actually also values. And values have to do with behavior. So once we've found your core personality, and now we have to think about what drives my behavior, my actions, what motivates me, what are the reasons why I do certain things, right? Values are about what is important to you. Then you can think about what would be 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is for me, let's say, the maximum I would choose of these words, like, is adventure important to me if I'm an explorer, right? Or is family important to me? Or what are is freedom important? Is respect important? Is community important? Is love important? What are these values that ring true to you and actually guide? That's going to form your North Star, your moral compass, let's say. Mm-hmm. And this is often how people define us. When somebody asks me, like, how would you describe me? Sometimes the word that comes to mind is, oh, you're such an honest and sincere person. And that's actually a value: honesty, sincerity.
Yeah.
So we often describe people using these kind of values as adjectives almost, as words to describe somebody. So I think this is the next step, is finding first your core personality, and the second step could be to find 3, 4, or 5 of these core values that guide your behavior. And then the creative part of that is, once you're really sure, right, you looked at your upbringing, at your family, at maybe the most important moments in your life where you made a certain decision that you're proud of, what is the value underneath it? So maybe I should make this an example for a second. For me, empowerment is important. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the 3 words that for me are very, very important, and I base my most important decisions on that. And one of the reasons I'm teaching part-time in the conservatory here is because of empowerment.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I'm an artist coach, or write blog posts, or write an ebook, is to give people the tools, right, to build their own life and their own music career.
Oh man, and how well does that tie into Start With Why, which you also teach, the golden circle? Like now
Yeah.
now you like maybe I can even get an ebook out if I understand why. Like I'm helping people. It's giving people tools to
Yeah.
go after what they want, and if you have this information can help them. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So this is how I use it sometimes to kind of confront myself. Am I, I get a job offer as a director. And then I can think of my core values and just be like, okay, if empowerment is important, do I have more chances to do it here or more chances to do it there? If this is what makes you most happy and most fulfilled to live this kind of life on basis of those principles, then what of these two options do I have right in front of me right now makes most sense, right? And resonates most deeply with me. So
that also takes a lot of the emotion out of decision making, because when you're basing it on this framework of who I am and what do I believe, what's important to me, then, you can feel bad about letting go to a good opportunity. But if it doesn't align with your core values or ultimately where you feel like you'll make the most impact, you said fulfilling, then the lines become more clear about the direction, the path to take.
Yeah, and on the other hand, sometimes what you also tell me, right? It can also be a kick under your own butt, right? Because you told me lately that you're quitting with a job. No, but you are quitting with a job because you wanted to have more impact, right?
So Peter just announced it. Yeah, no, yes, that's true. That's true. And
right?
Absolutely. And you helped me make that decision. So I owe you so much with helping see where are we called to be influential in which areas. And I absolutely love the conservatorium kids that we get to work with. And then, this podcast has just exploded so much, having people like you come in and get to teach our membership. Our membership has grown. So now I'm seeing, okay, I need to harness my time and energy into the Fearless Artist more, like as much as I can besides my performing career. I can't be in too many split areas. So yeah, that's definitely been helpful to make that decision, although it was painful, especially when you disappoint people.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest for me. I think
but you
one
also
of my core values is people pleasing.
But what I like is that you also then push yourself. Like, hey, if this is important to me, is there a way that I can do this more, right? Yeah. And that's so I like that. It can be a way to kind of kick something out, like have a choice, but it can also be a way of kind of pushing yourself. Like, okay, I am on this path, but could I do it even better? Could I do it even affect more people, work with more people? Grow this community. So I think I really find having these values very empowering in itself.
That. Thank you for sharing this. Yeah, I'm going to think about this some more. It's good.
Well, the next question would be for me then is when I work with people, okay, but how do you discover your own core values, right? Like, where are they? And what I always like to do is kind of go through like 3 different ways of doing this. And hopefully one of them actually works, right? That's the goal. That's the goal. There are tools, and not every tool is made for every person here, right? So the first one I do, maybe we can do this really quickly with you as well, Michelle. That would be fun, maybe.
Oh boy.
Are you up for that?
I'm always up for it.
Okay, the first one. Let's see if this works. It doesn't have to work, right? The first one could be your DNA. So you can look at your family, your upbringing, the group of friends you were part of, or the church or the community you were part of. And was there maybe one value there that immediately comes to mind that was really important?
Yes, immediately. Hardworking.
Perfect.
I come from conservative Alberta, farmer background. If your friend is stuck in the mud or snow at 2 a.m., you get in your vehicle and you go drive 20 miles and you pick them out of the road. I mean, you're there for your people. So also with that would go loyalty, I think.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, then the next one is, before we discuss them, is if you have this word, hardworking, to take the first one you said, right? Then the question is that the perfect word, right? Is it persistence? Is it dedication? What is exactly the best words then to describe that value? Then you can think about it, think of synonyms, just let it bubble for a while until you're like, this is the word, I'm sure. You know what I mean? That would be then how you can work on it.
Yeah, I mean, persistence definitely. Grit comes to mind, like just like pushing through when things get tough. That you just, we're not giving up. We're going to find a way. And yeah, I think that has served my entrepreneurial spirit a lot, actually, because I just haven't given up. Even when TFA, like in 2022, we were like, what are we doing? This is not going well. And just like, we got to just find a way. Now, yeah, we made it to the other side. So
The second approach that you could try is an artist that really inspires you. Right, so we can stick to music for a second, but it could also be, right? Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, that's completely up to you. But let's try music for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And why does this person actually inspire you so much? Is there actually something that person stands for, that artist stands for, that really resonates with you? Does something come to mind?
Yeah, and I mean, I might get some flack for this. So, like, I'm not going to talk from a musical standpoint, but the way that Taylor Swift interacts with her fan base and shows them like deep care and compassion and genuine appreciation, I have admired for a long time. And also her work ethic. I mean, she is like, I've just been in awe watching her tour, hearing how she prepped for it. Showing up at people's houses, playing weddings, making them cookies, sending them specific VIP packages, making, she knows the influence that she has. And I've just seen bits and heard stories of her giving large amounts of money to people when she's in town. And just like, I just think it's so cool what she's doing, like using her influence and fame to make places better. And yeah, I love that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Could be then, it doesn't have to be, these are just ways to find out, right? It could be then what you admire so much in Taylor Swift, that connection to her fans, that maybe connection or something like this, community, honesty, sincerity, we could brainstorm again about this, is maybe one of your core values too, and that's actually why you're drawn.
People have always been so important to me, and I think that's why we also invested so much in the Fearless Artist. Like from the beginning, we weren't paying ourselves. We were just spending hours and hours commenting on other people's Instagram posts, being like, "You sound amazing, great job, keep going." They're like, "Why are you doing this?" We're like, "I don't know. It's just in me. Like we just have to do this." Yeah, part of the calling.
All right, and the last one I would recommend to people to try is to look at your own life. So look at yourself and figure out what was a really truly important key moment in my life where I had to make a decision and where you're proud of it, or the opposite, because we all have those, I think, as well, where we're kind of ashamed of it. We made the wrong decision, right? Yeah. What is the value underneath, the principle underneath that we either, right, acted upon or actually neglected? And what comes to mind, let's focus maybe on the positive, but is there a moment in life where you feel like I made the right decision there and that's that value?
Interesting. I mean, I can always go to like a series of decisions around whether or not I gave up piano forever or not, when things got coming over to Europe and not knowing where to start, not having a school that I was working with, feeling alone and lost and on my own, isolated. It would have been really easy to just give up completely. So I guess that just ties back into like this kind of grit thing, like stubbornness. Is that a value? Just like,
hey,
really stubborn.
I will leave that to you. Right? Yeah. We need more stubborn people.
I really wanted to just give up the whole thing, and I just felt sick inside. I felt like unwell, like something was, like eating at me. So I was like, okay, I got to keep piano. I don't know why, but, so yeah, maybe something around that.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. So this is the way how we can find it. And then, of course, the creative challenge becomes, if this is your value, what does this mean for you as a band leader, right? An ensemble leader? Maybe even as a composer or as a performer. If you're really adventurous, what does this mean for how you interpreted the piece, right? Or play it, or start it, or end it? What happens? How do you select repertoire if you are truly an adventurer? So this is kind of the thing to think about. Like all the things you do, you can just make it a creative challenge. Be like, can I change one thing so it embodies more this core value? And I think already one core value is a lifetime of work, because you can do it everywhere and improve something everywhere. So I don't even need 5. I have 3 that I'm really convinced about. And that's for me more than enough to work with.
Yeah, that's true. This is like such a healing conversation too, somehow, because you see where you belong in a sense. You're like, okay, this is my area. These are my strengths. And that also helps eliminate some of this comparison or like timelines. A lot of classical musicians get freaking out about timelines. And it's like, well, if you look at the people in front of you, who are you called to serve? What gifts do you have that will help people around you? Start there. And then it kind of takes a lot of this pressure off to like catch up to everyone else who's ahead, you know, especially because right now, next season is being announced already. And so there's this kind of toxic or fear online where it's like every new post is someone announcing something.
Okay.
And it's like, you know, it just perpetuates this. We hear it a lot in our musicians too. You're just like, oh, I don't want to see another like Thrilled to Announce, or I'm going to be playing here. And it's like, oh no, I missed it. You know, it's always this like scarcity mindset that is so prevalent. It's hard to overcome that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. It will hopefully, what you said, reduce that comparison a lot, because you're moving more and more from the inside out instead of from the outside in, right? And maybe because you kind of train this creative muscle with infusing your personality, your values into everything you do, you're actually kind of creating and kind of flexing and strengthening this creative muscle, which will also then strengthen your entrepreneurial muscle. Right? And then instead of thinking in, oh, I've missed that, you will start thinking in, what can I create? What opportunity can I create myself? What can I control and do with the means and the skills and the network and the people I know and the resources I have, and act upon this value and do something my way. And I think if you just do this all the time, those things will start happening as well. Plus, hopefully the phone will actually start ringing more, because you stand out, what you said, and people remember you.
Right.
Maybe a really different example, but I was working with an artist in Tilburg in the Netherlands, and he's a rock artist.
Okay.
And I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know him so well, so we had a coaching session twice. And he said, "Okay, I make indie rave."
Indie rave. This is
It's rave music, but with guitars also. I was already captivated. So one way of branding yourself amazingly, he was doing very well, was kind of putting two genres together that normally you don't hear often in a sentence, like indie rave. And that was already, for me, if I'm a programmer in the Netherlands and he puts this literally in his booking email, he says, I'm an indie rave artist.
Yeah.
I will remember him now forever, because how
You're
often
right.
have I heard indie rave together?
Yeah.
Never.
Right.
So this is one trick, one way of doing it. But of course, he actually does it and he loves both. And he just wants to merge his passions, electronic music, right? Rave music and indie music, guitar. And find a way to do both, right? And which is interesting. So it's not fake, it's not a gimmick, but it actually works in a branding perspective, right? And then the second thing he did, which was also super interesting, is he had such a good sentence. In branding, you call it a tagline. I'm not sure he was aware it was a tagline, but it totally functioned like it. And his tagline was very rebellious, because he's a rebel and he's a jester as an archetype. So there's humor there and there's like a bit of attitude, right? Okay. I'm saying it from the head, but as long as NDMA is illegal, my music is the only legal alternative.
Oh, wow.
So kind of saying, as long as you can't take drugs legally, listen to my music, come to my live show.
Yeah, you're right. It's funny. It's a funny way to say what he wants to say.
It's funny. It's rebellious. It totally, because not everybody would talk about drugs, but maybe if you're a rock and roll rebel, you would. So it's an interesting way of doing it. And I found it amazing. It was like, man, you have this label for your music. You have this sentence about your experience. Put those two in that email, and people will laugh about that sentence, will remember you because of that sentence, and you will get bookings, right? And that's kind of branding in action. You will start to get creative, and maybe somebody else would be afraid of that sentence, but if you know you are a rebel, then it will also give you the courage to act on it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's culturally different. So he can get away with that in pop. Maybe in classical music, that would be a step too far. You can think about that, but it would also be refreshing for me, probably, if somebody would say a similar sentence like that. As long as LSD is illegal, come to my classical music concert. I would love it if somebody would say that. I would love it.
I did have someone do cocaine at one of my candlelight concerts.
You did? Wow.
Yes, they found him in the bathroom. They had to escort him out. I was like, if that's the vibe, I was kind of like, is that what you got from this?
That's amazing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's really helpful. I love this. I feel like I need to book a artist branding session with you about my concert series. Because we're still, branding takes time. Like, I think it takes a long time to figure out what do you want to say, how do you want to be different, especially when you're playing, like, the quote same rep. The classical music canon is limited. We're not creating new things, although we do play, like, newer composers and stuff. But yeah, very cool. Lots of things to think about.
Yeah, and I like that what you said. We spent a lot of existing repertoire, right? And then I think we've talked about this already before, but then it's really like, are people coming to hear Bach, or are people coming to hear your rendition of Bach?
Yeah.
Right? To experience you playing Bach and be part of that moment with you, specifically you, right? And that's branding. Otherwise, Bach has an amazing brand. The goal is that you have that amazing brand, right? That's the goal. So that's where branding comes in.
I love that. So how can people find you? How can they get digging into this? Tell us about your ebook.
All right. So, I'm active on Instagram and LinkedIn especially. So I'm a bit more of a long form creator. I like to write ebooks or blog posts. So I have a website called always look at the brandsideoflife.com. You can
always
find
look at the
brand side of life. Yeah, that's it. It's a long form brand name as well. Everything is long when I do. It's all long. I write some blog posts there. I will actually upload that book here soon. So add it on the resources on the website as well. But on LinkedIn or Instagram, you can write me, and then I can send the ebook to you by email or put it in the chat. So that's the easiest way.
On Instagram, you are Pieter Schoonderwoerd, is that right?
That's correct.
We'll put it in the show notes, everybody. Make sure you follow Pieter. Pieter, if anyone listening, a classical musician, this is all new for them. They have to do one action point based on today's episode. What would you tell them to do?
Well, what I would tell them to do is Google archetype branding and archetypes. See the 12 that exist, read up a bit, and maybe try to do one or two tests. Those are in the ebook as well, and see if something resonates. That's an amazing beginning. Do you actually find something that resonates with you?
Yeah, it's a great thing. If you need a copy of the archetype ebook, just send us a DM on Instagram, the Fearless Artist Mastermind. Pieter, as always, thank you so much. This wealth of information, lots to dig in here. Just totally appreciate having you on.
Same as well. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Make sure you screenshot and share this to your stories. And until next time, be fearless.
Thank you for listening to the Fearless Artist Podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to share this podcast with a friend. To join our membership or one of our coaching programs, visit our website at thefearlessartistmastermind.com.
This episode was produced by Pokey Huang at PH Media Studios in New York City. We're Deanna and Michelle, encouraging you to create your own opportunities and to go after what you want. You have what it takes to build the career of your dreams. Until next time, be fearless.